Okay, so now that we've covered how to check and apply credits on a customer's account, let's move on to see how to receive a customer's payment in Local Food Marketplace. We're going to come back to the order page that we were looking at just before. When we go to Payment Actions, we click on the drop-down menu and you select Receive Payment. You'll see this window come up next. So let's walk through each line. First, you have Payment Type. We'll go over the different payment options in a minute, but for now, notice that this line is red, which means you will have to complete this line in order to submit your payment. In a minute, we will look at all these different types of payments, including cash, credit card, debit cards, and more. Next, you'll see Payment Date, and this box is pre-filled with today's date. So normally, you don't ever have to make any changes here. Following that, you have the payer name. This box is also pre-filled with the name of the member. Once again, you normally don't have to make any changes here. On the next line, Payment Detail, notice that this line is not colored red, but rather the text is black. That means you don't have to add anything here in order to submit the payment. The Payment Detail line is a great place to add any notes or any questions you have regarding this payment. For instance, if a customer is paying with cash and they ask you to keep the change, you can drop a note in there so that whoever processes the payments later can see exactly what happened. Next, let's move on to the payment amount. This box has also been pre-filled with the remaining balance due on a member's order. Normally, you would also keep this box the same, but we'll talk about a few special cases in just a minute. Finally, you have 3 lines at the bottom: Applied Amount, Remaining Amount, and Unpaid Orders. These 3 lines at the bottom will help you understand where this particular payment is going and how it's going to get applied. We will learn more about this part when we go over some of the unique situations that might pop up. For now, let's go over some of the payment types. So as a review, we come to the Payment Actions box and click Receive Payment. Now from here, this first line, Payment Type, has a number of different options. So be very careful during this step because it's an important one. If someone is paying, for instance, with cash or an EBT card, then all you need to do is find appropriate line item on the list, and then that's good. There is also an option on this list to select good food bucks down at the bottom, but that is something that you won't ever have to use, so there's no need to worry about it. But notice now that there are 2 options here for debit cards, and then there's 2 options for credit cards, one here and one at the top. When we go over these, let's talk about credit cards first. When I select this first option, which only says credit card, I get these extra boxes and lines down here that ask me for information related to the card type, card holder, and more. We don't really need to do this because at this point we've already run the credit card through the card reader and we don't need that information anymore. For that reason, we never use this first option. Instead, we're going to use the other option that says in-person credit card. When we choose this option, we're able to submit the payment without adding any more unnecessary information about the customer's credit card. Now, let's take a look at the 2 options for debit cards. Here we have Debit US with PIN and Debit Visa, no PIN. The easiest way to choose between these 2 options is to remember whether or not a person put their PIN number in when they were swiping their card. If they did add their PIN number, you would select the first one, US Debit. If they did not put in their PIN number, you would select the second. But what if you forgot whether or not they put in their PIN number? In this case, you can just look at the receipt below where it says approved, and there you will either see something that says US Debit or just Debit, or Visa Debit. You might sometimes see something that says MasterCard Debit, but this is the same thing as Visa Debit, just with a different card company. Finally, let's take a look at a unique situation that mostly comes up when we are dealing with cash. To see what I'm talking about, we'll start by first selecting the cash payment option. Now we're back at the full menu. We've already selected our payment type, and I know that the date and the payer name are both correct, so we don't need to change either of those. Now in this case, let's say that Scott, our customer, gave us a $50 bill to pay for the order, which means that our payment amount should be changed to $50. The applied amount down here is going to stay the same at $45.86 because that's how much of the $50 is going towards this particular order. But the remaining amount now is $4.14 because that's the difference between $50 and the actual balance on this order. Also notice this box shown down on the right, which shows that the amount to pay is still $45.86. This is the box that controls how much of the $50 is being applied to the order. That means that when I uncheck this box, or even I change the number, the entire order won't be paid in full, and you can see that the applied amount has changed. We don't want to see that. Once I have everything filled out, and I know that I am keeping Scott's change, I can even add a note here, say keep change. I can go down here and select receive payment, and we are all done with that. The extra change we are keeping will automatically be added to Scott's account, and we will be able to see that as an unapplied payment, just as you saw previously.